All right, folks, it is time. How's it going? I've been teasing this wall here all week, and it's now time to finally hear these 7 beginner mandolins. But first, how are y'all doing? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new here, my name is David, and here on the channel we do a bunch of mandolin content if you haven't seen any of the other videos. But yeah, it's so great to be with you all here live this morning. I've been traveling a little bit the past couple weeks and heading to IBMA next week, and would love to see some of you folks there. Been thinking about doing another live in-person mandolin morning session. We did that last year, which was so fun, and met outside the expo hall, got to pick some tunes together live in person. And this year is going to be fun. I'll be there a couple days during the week, and then we're playing on the weekend with the Foreign Landers and the Street Fest. And also be doing a panel on Thursday afternoon, I believe, with Marcel Ardons from Lessons with Marcel and Eli Gilbert from his channel here. Some amazing banjo content if you haven't seen it. And Hillary Klug as well, fiddle player, dancer extraordinaire. So we'll be doing a YouTube panel if anyone wants to come, ask questions about how the magic happens. But yeah, what's been going on with you all? Let's see here who we got in the stream. We got JJ Sneed, what's up, coming to IBMA. Jim Taylor, how's the weather? The weather's pretty nice. The weather's not been bad. Let's see. Good morning to Summers. Typing Hazard. Have we already declared a winner? And why is it the Rogue RM100A? Good question. I thought about getting the Rogue, but I actually didn't get the Rogue in this comparison. I went with another kind of cheaper mandolin, the best-selling mandolin on Amazon. Maybe that would be a good transition. I actually don't need these headphones on, because I'm going to go way back here and grab this mandolin. Rogue mandolins are also made by Saga Musical Instruments, and they make the Kentucky mandolins. And I thought it might be a little bit unfair to have 2 mandolins from the same company in the comparison. But I did get the KM150 from Kentucky, which we'll get to a little bit later. But instead of the Rogue, I ended up getting this one. It's kind of a comparable plywood manufactured mandolin that, actually, it's pretty amazing. This one is $120. Came with a gig bag and an extra set of strings, and even came with an electric tuner and a stick-on pickup transducer, which was so interesting. But yeah, this is actually the best selling and highest rated mandolin on Amazon, if that says anything. And yeah, I've actually got an in-depth comparison video coming out hopefully tomorrow. I was up late last night finishing the video and just gotta get the thumbnail all sorted. But you can hear my in-depth thoughts there tomorrow once it comes out. But I thought it'd be fun to do this live as well. A little bit of buzz going on here. I gotta sort that out, but yeah, not too bad for $120. The main thing that was kind of the issue with this one is out of the box it needed a lot of setup. The bridge was leaning even more dramatically forward, and I tried resanding it a little bit to get it kind of standing up a bit straighter. Also, the bridge doesn't go very low, so the action on this one is pretty high. Not great for a beginner as well. And also, there's no truss rod on this one, so the fretboard's a bit wavy, and I'm not sure if it's that or other factors that have contributed to some intonation issues. Isn't that weird? It's I can get the D string and the 5th fret on the A string to ring out and pretty much in tune, and then when you go to the 7th fret on the D string compared to the open A, it's way out of tune. Also, even just going from your G to your D chord sounds kind of weird. Oh, Swampykin saying this is the exact model for their first mandolin. That's so cool. First fret was so bad that I couldn't play F. Yeah, that's like, that is another factor. Like the nut is very high on this one, making the action even more difficult to play down here at the nut too. Like the first, second frets are pretty hard to hold down. So even though it is a beginner mandolin, it's like kind of more challenging to play than some of the other mandolins. But I don't know, it's still like pretty amazing. If you can get a mandolin for 120 bucks and it gets you started playing, not too bad, honestly. Let's see, let me play something a little bit so you can get to hear this one a bit more. Figure out where this buzz is coming from though. Might be the tailpiece. It might be the bridge, actually, or the... Let me see. I have another video coming out maybe in a week or two, kind of going into setup in depth and kind of how how much work went into setting up these 7 mandolins. They all came out of the box. I actually just bought these all on Amazon pretty much. They all came out of the box with very loose string tension, you know, and they had intonation issues just, you know, by nature, needing to have the bridge reset. And then a lot of them needed the bridge resanded, some needed truss rod adjustments, and it's been a good learning experience for me. Just building confidence and seeing how good my setup knowledge is. Here is a little bit of Big Sciotos. It goes like this. Van Gogh Basic VMA 10, I believe this model is called. 120 bucks. There's some affiliate links below if you want to check any of these out and help out the channel as well. You can go down below and see what you like. Yeah. Maybe I'll just go down the list from least expensive to more expensive. Go over some specs for each and play a little bit, and then we can go back and revisit any ones that you guys have. If you have any questions about any of these, just please let me know here in the live chat as well. That's why we're here for sure. Let's see. Jilleth saying main mandolin is an Epiphone MM30s. Isn't terrible. Yeah, solid spruce top. That's great. Yeah, this one I wanted to have like kind of a plywood top, just as a control for the comparison, because everyone always talks about how, like, you know, solid wood definitely is better for a mandolin than plywood. Laminate tops or even a laminate back and sides, I think, has a factor in the tone and the playability of an instrument. So this was kind of the control, and you know, it definitely, I think it's interesting. It works okay, but it definitely has less of a mandolin sound than I would think. And I think you'll get to hear like some of the better tones of these other mandolins as we go up in price. Starting with this next one, we got another laminate top one. This one right here. This was kind of like another popular model online on Amazon in particular. It's the Ibanez. What is it? I think it's like MV. What is the exact model name? I'm drawing a blank. M510 DVS, I believe. And this one is another laminate top. You know, it's funny. I bought this, and I thought it was solid. I thought it was a solid piece of wood on the top, because on the listing it said that it had a select spruce top, which felt a little misleading. I thought, I was like, oh, it must be like carved solid spruce, but ended up just being laminate spruce, sadly. But I think this one does have mahogany back and sides. I'm not sure if it's also laminate, but you know, you can see the grain a little bit better on the back. This one and the Van Gogh, the two cheapest, were kind of the most different in shape. They have like a little bit more of a longer shape. The body actually comes up to the bottom of the 12th fret as opposed to the bottom of the 15th fret like you see in a lot of other mandolins. So that was an interesting factor. I think that contributes to the sound. Also, this one does have a truss rod, which is a little bit better. The neck is a little bit thinner. It's actually a wider fretboard, but it's a little bit thinner, making it easier to play. Let's see. Get this thing in tune again. Anyone out there have this Ibanez mandolin at home? Oh, thanks, Lucy. Yeah. It sounds a little bit more in tune. There's still some like intonation issues, but you can see there's like some improvements with this one. Like the action is much lower, so it feels nicer to play. The bridge is a bit better, although it did take some resanding to get it fitted for the top again. There's not as much buzzing on this one. Like the working parts are a little bit more secure on the mandolin itself, and there is a truss rod here, so it's like less of a wavy fretboard, which is really nice too. Yeah, I think someone was saying that the laminate tops usually don't have as much low end, and I think that's right. Something about that low end just sounds like very metallic and harsh to me. The high end is maybe a bit more tubby sounding, and I think that might be kind of because of the gourd-like shape, kind of the longer body. There's more resonance inside the chamber, which may not be the best thing. But yeah, overall a little easier to play. And for the price, it's a little bit more expensive, but it wasn't too bad. I think it was about $169 on Amazon. Let me play something else. Let's see. How about a fiddle tune, like a. Are still waking up this morning, but yeah, I think this one has a little bit more playability for sure, making it a little easier to get around. Still, I don't know if it's like my favorite tone or anything like that, but it could be a very affordable starter mandolin if anyone's interested. But let's see, any questions about this one? let's see. Yeah, Jim's saying we should do a shootout of beginner oval holes. That would actually be a nice addition to this comparison. There are some like pretty nice ones out there. I know like Kentucky makes one, Eastman makes one that's really great. After getting this Gibson oval hole recently, I've been really into that style of mandolin. It just sounds so different, really resonant and really open sounding for sure. Let's see, we have like 120 people on the stream right now. That's amazing. I think that's the most we've ever had here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad people are interested in this topic. Let's see, you got some folks talking about the lure. Yeah, so in this lineup, we do have a lure we'll get to in just a minute. It's the Honey Creek A model as well. I think someone had that as well. And we do have an Eastman MD305 in the mix as well. So we'll get to those for sure. All right. Well, if no other questions about this one, let me grab number 3 in the lineup, which is this one over here. The Recording King Dirty 30s mandolin. This one, oops, I keep leaving my tuners over here. This one's priced at $199.99. I actually got this one on Sweetwater because it actually didn't have any models available on Amazon. It's the only one I didn't buy off of Amazon. And I'd never played a Recording King mandolin before, but I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised by this one. Not to, shape your opinion about it. Give it a listen, see what you think here. Goes something like this. Let's see, how about... Oops. Slight tuning issue. Let's try that again. Sure, you're judging these depending on how well I actually play them, so I apologize for some mistakes there. But yeah, this one is a little bit different in body shape than the Van Gogh. It it has the neck come in around the 12th fret instead of the 15th fret like some do, and this one's also a little bit wider. I don't know if you can see the profile of this one is much wider than you see on most A model mandolins. This one actually is X-braced as well. It may be the only one in the bunch that is X-braced. I wasn't able to find specs on all of them like I was hoping to. But this one definitely is X-Brace, solid spruce top, maple back inside, so it's all solid wood, which is really nice. The neck on this one is also really thin, which to me is a big factor in my experience with the mandolin. If the neck is too thick, it just doesn't make for a comfortable play. So that was a big factor for me when I was weighing up all these. And also, like, the working parts on this one for like $30 more than the Ibanez. It's kind of amazing, like the quality increase in the tuning machines. This one is so smooth compared to like the chalky tuners on the Ibanez. I don't know if you heard, like, they're actually creaking a little bit on the Ibanez as I was tuning them. And the bridge on this one is kind of more of a standard bridge than you see on some of the cheaper ones. I did take like the tailpiece off on this one because it was buzzing a little bit, so just a temporary fix there for this tailpiece. But yeah, what do you think about this one? There's like a different tone for sure. Yeah, Justin's saying like a sweeter tone. Yeah, I think folks are right. Like J-Lith is saying much clearer definition on the notes for this one. Yeah, Leo BT is saying this one does sound good. I would agree. This one kind of stood out to me as one of the nicer ones out of the batch. For very cheap, honestly. Like I think my first beginner mandolin was an Alvarez mandolin. I don't even know what the model number is. They don't make them anymore. And sadly, I let someone borrow it in college, and I don't know what happened to it. It just like kind of disappeared, and I don't even remember the name of the guy that I lent it to. Sadly, hopefully he's not watching. But yeah, so I don't have a immediate comparison to it. But from my memory, my beginner mandolin did not sound as nice as this, and definitely wasn't as responsive up the neck, or as loud, or stayed in tune quite as well. So it's encouraging to see that there is some competition happening in the mandolin market, where people are building better mandolins for cheaper, and hopefully getting them into the hands of more prospective players. So that's definitely encouraging for sure. The tuners, I think they're very surprising in quality. I don't know if you can kind of see the back of them. It's Ivoroid button tuners. They just work really smooth. I didn't feel like I was struggling to get it in tune like I was for the first two. So that was a definite improvement. The action being really nice and low tune. Very simple looking mandolin. It has a satin finish instead of a high gloss, and it just has kind of like minimal binding just around the body, not around the neck or the headstock like some do. But I don't think looks should be the ultimate deciding factor for a beginner mandolin. I had heard someone talk about it, how there's like kind of three flat factors. There's the sound, there's the playability, and then there's also the looks. And for a beginner mandolin, definitely playability should come first. And this one, I think, really ticks that box. And then sound second, and I think that's also true. Like, yeah, sound on this one sounds really good. Looks, I don't know, it's not my favorite looking mandolin, but that shouldn't hold you back from trying it out if you want to. For $200, if that's like, a factor for you getting to start the mandolin and enjoying this awesome instrument, then, if you can't afford a mandolin over $200, this would be the one to go for, I think. Very nice stuff. Let's see. I just want to keep playing it. What should I play? What could I do? Maybe like it, the Recording King. There it is. Yeah, someone was asking, Tim McNick was asking about string quality and how it affects the starter mandolins. For sure, do nicer strings make a nicer sound, and you're definitely right, they do. And in fact, I actually restrung all these mandolins at the same time so that they sound hopefully as similar as possible, and try to get the action very similar as well, like with a measuring stick, trying to like make sure that they all played as similarly as they could, barring any physical setup issues that would hold them back, like the Van Gogh having that higher action. But they're all strung with just kind of the standard D'Addario EJ74 medium strings, which are kind of the industry standard for phosphor bronze strings, I'd say. And yeah, I think you will find some of these mandolins come with pretty awful strings off the bat. I forget which one it was. It may have been like the Ibanez or the Van Gogh came with actually like rusty strings, as if like someone had been playing it for a long time. Or maybe you've just been sitting in a warehouse with some kind of like moisture on the strings, oxidizing them over time. So that was a big factor. Although some of them did come with pretty decent strings already on them, but I just went ahead and replaced them to be sure that they were the same age and everything. In fact, I think this next one here did come with the same. I think it was D'Addario EJ73s, I want to say, like kind of the lighter set of strings, but they look like they were in good condition. Let me grab this one. Get the tuner this time. This was the next one in the price lineup, the Washburn MS1 from their Americana series. This one is $249, I believe, on Amazon. You might be able to find all these mandolins for cheaper too, depending on what time of year you buy them, or if you can find one used, even better. But I just bought them all new to kind of get a similar experience with each one. So this one does look a bit fancier. Some of the stuff I like, some of the stuff I'm not a huge fan of. Like the varnish is very thick on this one. You can kind of see it's very high gloss, which may not be a bad thing, but usually some the higher end mandolins don't have quite as much gloss. It's kind of more of a natural thinner varnish, because it actually does affect the tone. If you have a really thick finish on the wood, then some people say that kind of traps some of the volume and some of the sound in. Oh yeah, JJ Sneeze saying, "Ugh, I cry having to restring just one mandolin." Let me tell you what, it took the better part of 3 days to set up all these mandolins, to get them restrung, to do the bridge resanding. That took quite a while. I also did film a video, like I was saying, during the process, so that didn't make it any faster, but I'm excited to share that video. I think it'll turn out really well. Washburn. Let's see. Almost. See. I've been editing too many videos. I'm out of shape on playing. But yeah, that's a little bit of this Washburn M1S. This one has kind of the most interesting headstock. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the look of some of this mandolin, but very intricate, like, kind of cutouts on the side here. It's one of the biggest headstocks. It might be one of the heavier mandolins, although the top and the back, I assume, are very thin compared to some, like especially some of the plywood mandolins, but also some of the more expensive ones later on with the solid wood. I actually was surprised the lower and the Eastman were the thickest tops overall. But yeah, this one, like, it's very responsive, very easy to play. But yeah, Justin's right. I think there's like a lot of high overtones. Yeah, Rick Sanderson's saying really bright. It's got a nice tone. So if that's like your thing, this would definitely be a great affordable option for $250. The only like my biggest gripe with this one is the neck is super thick. I don't know if you can actually kind of see the profile, but it's very round, very thick, very like deep that way. Which makes it, to me, like not the most comfortable mandolin to play. Some people like that as well. I do kind of like more shallow necks that feels like I can get a little bit closer to the frets with my fingers, if that makes sense. So that, I don't know, that's a big kind of consideration when you're thinking about this one. But a very, very quality mandolin overall, I'd say. This was like one of the first ones I played that I was like, oh yeah, this kind of feels like a real mandolin. I'm not sure though if I like it more than the Recording King. What do you guys think? For $50 more, is it like worth to get this one over the Recording King? Let me know what you think here. We'll have to do, is there a way to do a poll on the chat here? I'm sure there is. Let's see. Oh yeah, there is. Okay. Let's see. Let me start a poll here. What do you guys think so far? Let's see. Let's see. Is the Washburn better than the Recording King? I'm excited to see what you guys think. Oops. Let's see. First time doing this one. All right. There's the poll in the chat. Let me know what you think here. We'll have to do another poll at the end for all the mandolins for sure. All right. So that's the Washburn. Next up, let's see. What is the next one? Oh yeah, the next one up is the Lore. Check this one out. This is the Lore BRB, or sorry, Lore LM110 BRB Honey Creek. Is the longest title for all of them, but it's a very nice quality looking mandolin, isn't it? Some folks shouting out to say that they have this one at home. This is actually the one that Baron Collins Hill, I think, did a recent video saying that this was his pick for the best budget mandolin out there. And I think I actually was very impressed with the quality. I'd played some of the more expensive Lore series ones. I forget what it was, like the 510, is that right? Or kind of the F-style heavy gloss ones that they've been making from the start. And I wasn't always like a huge fan of those because the neck again was like really chunky on those, and the tone was a little bit closed over. But they also kind of didn't look like my favorite type of mandolins with like the yellow varnish or the yellow finish and the heavy varnish and all that. But I was actually really surprised by how beautiful this one looks. Just like very subtle appointments. That sunburst, it might be one of my favorites in this whole batch as well. And also this really nice piece of wood that they've used for the fingerboard. I don't know if you can kind of see the red marbling in there. Very beautiful. I think it's called Padock wood, which I'd never heard of before, but very nice kind of touch that accents the top very well. This one feels like a bluegrass mandolin, like a very standard traditional A5 model as well, because this one has a dovetail connection here at the 15th fret. It also has kind of more of a circular body shape compared to the Washburn and the Recording King both have the wider profile on the top. And then the first two, the Ibanez and the Van Gogh, they had like kind of a longer gourd-like shape. But this one is more of the standard kind of circular teardrop that you see from the early A5 mandolins that were being made. And yeah, it's really nice. It's like it looks like a mandolin worth well beyond its price tag. This one is priced for $299, which is pretty amazing. Again, like I paid I think $300 for my beginner mandolin, and definitely did not sound near as good as some of the ones that we're playing here, including this one. Here's what it sounds like. Something a little bit more melodic. How about like Honey Creek. Yeah, I was really impressed with this one for sure. Definitely kind of stood out from the rest in terms of looks and in terms of sound. I think it's got like a really good focus, punchy sound. Someone was saying that's a really good word for it as well. It's just got like a really nice bluegrass tone. If you want to cut through in a bluegrass jam against like a banjo and a fiddle, there's like a certain focusing to the tone that you really need to cut through. Whereas some of the other ones had like a very loud volume, but didn't have quite as much of a narrow field of focus in the tone. Like the Recording King and the Washburn have almost more of like a tubby sound, which isn't bad necessarily, but it may not be well suited for bluegrass if that's a concern for you. This one also, it has like a very nice neck. The fingerboard is the widest out of the rest. I think it's like I forget the measurement on the nut, but it's like a very wide fretboard, which is nice. I kind of like that. My Piteous mandolin, my main mandolin, has a wider fretboard as well, which feels very comfortable. And the neck, though, it still feels really comfortable to play because it's shallow and it has a V profile as well, which is something that you see more on high-end mandolins. Like most of the mandolins so far have had like a very round profile on the back. With exception of the Recording King. The Recording King had kind of more of a rectangular shape too, which is kind of interesting, but it still felt very good. It was very thin, but usually you see like kind of this little point on the back, a V profile that fits very well into like the crook of your thumb when you're doing the chop chord and all that. It felt very nice. Also gives you kind of more of a angular plane to place your thumb and press against the back of the neck to get some more leverage to hold down the strings on the fret. So yeah, very nice mandolin overall. I do enjoy this one. Yeah, what do you think? It's also like, it doesn't have like a whole lot of figuring on the back, but you can see like that's real wood. I love that. It's like, this is a real instrument for sure. Didn't require much setup as well. Like it came out of the box with the bridge sanded very nicely for the top. I just needed to intonate it. I needed to adjust the truss rod just a little bit to kind of get rid of, you know, I might even use a little bit more, to be honest. Like, it had a kind of very straight fretboard and there was some buzz in the middle. So just loosening the truss rod a little bit got rid of that buzz and kind of made this one feel a little bit easier to play, a little bit less tight on the strings. That's my one complaint with this one. It has like a little bit of a tighter feel, like on the A and the E strings in particular. And also the volume is a lot quieter on this one than I think the rest of the mandolins, and it might be the quietest out of all of them, at least in my experience it has been. So if this was just like a little bit louder and felt like a little bit looser, it might be like my pick out of the batch. Still, like, fantastic quality instrument that you're getting for $300. Pretty amazing. Let me know what you think about this one here. Let's see. Brendan saying there, his Honey Creek needed a fair amount of adjustment on the bridge action. Yeah, that's another thing. I did adjust like the action on this one too. I think I adjusted the action on all of them to try to be as similar as possible. I do like my action a bit lower, maybe not as low as some though, just to like still be able to get a little punch, a little bit of volume there. Very nice looking, C Drive is saying. Impressive, well-rounded sound. Oh yeah, Joe Krager, C, D, or V profiles. That's a really good like terminology for it. So this would be a V, you know, like the recording king would be a D, and the rest would probably be like a C shape. That's a very, very good way to put it. Yeah, Joe is saying for true beginners they need to add strings and a setup for the price. Definitely. Yeah, Blake, I definitely do think that the lore is a bit quiet. I don't know if it's too quiet. It depends on like how hard you played. One thing is like this one, it doesn't feel like you can really dig in with this one, even though it feels a little bit tighter. But you know it requires a little bit extra work to make it sound that loud. So I think it's still got a lot of power under the hood, so to speak. But it definitely isn't the loudest of the bunch, which for me, as I'm more of a quiet player, it feels, I don't know, a little bit less enjoyable to play because I'm not getting as much volume out of, you know, what I expect to get, if that makes sense. But yeah, satin finish, I think, on this one and the Recording King definitely contributes to the sound too. Very nice stuff. Let's see. Yeah, got some, do some britches full of stitches. Okay, yeah, let's do that one. Definitely. Oh, see, it's been a little while since I played it. That's another one I forgot. Bill Sullivan's polka, I think that one is. I used to play those two together in an Irish band growing up here. Yeah, this could work for Irish music as well. It may not be like, you know, the most Irishy mandolin. You know, obviously like the Overholes have a really nice tone for those vintage tunes, the traditional tunes that have been around for so long. But you know, you can play Irish music on any mandolin. This one being no exception for sure. Well, we just got two more. The final countdown here. Let me grab the next one in our lineup. This one is the Kentucky KM150, and this one actually looks really nice. It does have like a gloss varnish on it, but you can tell it's a lot thinner than either the Washburn, the Ibanez, or the Van Gogh. It also just like all solid wood. You can see like some really nice figuring on the back, and the sides are very pretty as well. You can really see the grain of the wood on the sides and the top. So we got spruce on the top, maple back and sides, and maple neck, I believe, as well. The neck is a little bit thicker than I was hoping. It's kind of more of that C profile, but it is thin enough to like be really comfortable, and I don't really notice it quite as much. I think we're pretty much in tune. See what we do. Feeling that one. I gotta try a different tune here. Let's see. What about joining. This is the KM150, number 6 in the lineup so far. This one comes in at $530 about online. It's listed for I think $750, but I found it on Amazon for like $530. Really amazing, I think. One of my favorites from the batch, and you can see there's just like some really nice appointments to start with. The pick guard is the nicest out of the bunch because there's no screws showing on the top. It looks very subtle. Doesn't get in the way, doesn't buzz or anything like that. The bridge is kind of the sturdiest out of the batch as well, and this one came pretty much set up. You know, it came with the bridge in the right place for intonation, hadn't really moved around, and shipping, and I just adjusted the action a little bit to get it the way that I wanted to. Also, the tuners are the smoothest out of the whole bunch too. This one, like, so easy to keep in tune. You know, it was already in tune actually when I picked it up, and yeah, just like really nice stuff. It does have, you know, kind of a modified dovetail connection. It doesn't have the traditional dovetail like the Lord did, or the Eastman also has a dovetail, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like it affects the sound too much. What do you guys think about how this one, how does it sound to y'all? Nice tone, good mid-range. Yeah, Jim was saying Kentucky was cheaper when I bought mine. Yeah, that's so true. It's like definitely gone up in price. I think you'd usually find one of these for like $350, but now it's definitely gone up quite a lot, and especially in post-pandemic days. But another impressive thing I found with this one, it actually came with like a very nice carrying case, like a very nice gig bag that felt substantial, felt like it wasn't gonna get banged up when I was traveling with it. Whereas most of the mandolins didn't come with any case, so it's another thing that you have to factor in for price for sure. You can also find there's a model that Kentucky makes called the KM140, which is very similar. It kind of looks identical, but it does have laminate back and sides instead of the solid maple back and sides this one has. So it's a little bit more affordable. I think it's about like $100 cheaper, to be honest. But you can actually find one. I think it's like $430 on Amazon if you wanted to try to find one just slightly cheaper. But I do think that the solid wood makes a big difference. If you were to compare this one to the Van Gogh, it definitely is gonna outshine the Van Gogh, the first one we played. Wow, $70 in 1978. That's amazing. 340 today. I think this one has a lot more low end, like J-Lith is saying. Really nice tone. It feels more alive for some reason. Like it doesn't feel like I'm having to work to get the notes to come out. Not working against the mandolin. Definitely louder than the Lure overall, and it's got like kind of a more of a modern tone. It doesn't have like a really vintage tone, but it has kind of more of a similar sound to my Apitius, I'd say, than the rest of them do, because you have the clarity of every note, but you can feel there's like a depth to the note as well. It has like kind of clarity and complexity, which I think is great because it works well for bluegrass jam, but also would work well if you're playing on your own, if you're playing in different settings. Really nice mandolin overall. A little bit pricier for sure, like $530. I know some folks aren't willing to drop that amount of cash to start a new instrument if they don't know they're going to keep playing or not. But if you're really serious about it, I think this could be a really good beginner mandolin that would last you for a few years for sure. I don't know what the bracing is on this one. That's a good question, Matthew. I think it might be tone bars, just because judging by the sound, it's more similar to my Apitius, which does have kind of scalloped tone bars. That's kind of more the modern. Well, actually, there's something that they did in the Lures too, I believe. It's like they have like these two bars underneath the top here that are tuned to certain pitches that make the mandolin resonate really well, especially with the open strings and certain keys. And then you also have like X bracing, which is what that recording king is, and that's where you kind of place two bars in an X formation underneath the center of the top, which kind of gives it more of that kind of thunky sound, I believe. A lot of Gilchrist mandolins, really high end expensive mandolins have X bracing. That one I definitely has like kind of more of a, I don't know what to call it. It's like maybe a little bit looser string tension, it feels like. Also, could be other factors for that, but it feels like there's a little bit of a delay or a little bit of a reverb in the tone, whereas this one feels like the note's just like right there as soon as you play it. Oh, I think we're back. Let's see. Sorry about that. Here we go. We still have one more mandolin, so thanks for sticking around amidst all the streaming issues there. That's the KM150, but we still have one more that's more expensive, the Eastman MD305. This one seems to be like a very popular choice for bluegrass beginners. It's very nice looking. It's got more of a monochrome stain than the Lure and the Kentucky. It also doesn't have binding on the back, so it's a little bit simpler in appointments, but it does have like some fancier working appointments, like this one piece tailpiece, which is a lot nicer for changing strings. It doesn't buzz when you're playing, so that's an improvement. It also has a little fretted extension on the fretboard, which is nice if you want a couple extra frets on the A and the E string. Not that I actually play up there, but it looks nice. And then it also has a radius fretboard. I don't know if you can kind of see from this angle here. There's a little bit of a curve to the fretboard, which is really nice. I have that on my Piteous mandolin, and this is actually the only mandolin in the batch to have a radius. And to be able to have that from your first mandolin, that's pretty impressive. I think it does feel comfortable on your fingers, like especially when you're making chords. It just kind of curves to the contour of your fingers a bit more, so it can be a little bit jarring, going back to a flat fretboard from a radius. Not that one's better than the other, A lot of vintage mandolins have flat fretboards, and it just has a certain sound, certain quality, which is nice. This one comes in, I think it's listed again for like $750, maybe a little bit more. But I found this one on Amazon for $619. So, the most expensive out of the batch, I'd say. But these are very prolific makers, so you might be able to find an Eastman used for cheaper, just because there's a lot of them out there. What do y'all think about this one here? Let me see. Let's try to, let's see, how about, tune. I'm running out of tunes here. What about what was it? Eastman 305 MD. Thanks for sticking around. Yeah, this one definitely has a loud tone. It's very similar to the Lore. In fact, I think they may have modeled like the Honey Creek Lore mandolins after the Eastman. It seems like almost part for part there's some very similar features. The big differences being the tailpiece, the radius fretboard. The neck on this one is a little nicer, I think. It's a slimmer fretboard, which feels very much like the old vintage Gibson mandolin neck profiles with a more V shape as well. and it has like a little bit more of kind of a mid-rangey tone. I think, I don't know if that's the right description for it. A little bit more kind of woofy, or a little bit more kind of woody sounding, I guess. So, and when you get to this price range too, I think like you're talking in preference rather than maybe quality. I think like this one has a much different tone than the Kentucky. Actually, the Kentucky feels like has maybe more of a kind of brighter, more modern sound, whereas this one feels like it has a bit of a darker, maybe more kind of vintage sound. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. It's so hard talking about instruments and sounds and words. I heard someone say that talking about music is like trying to describe architecture with dance, which seems very, very appropriate. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to compare them for sure, but this is, I think, a very quality beginner mandolin. And if someone wants to learn bluegrass in particular, it might be a really good choice. I think it outperforms the Lure very slightly, just because it's louder and a little bit easier to play. It feels nicer with the fretboard and the neck. But it is over twice as much, so it's like if that's a factor, you want something that sounds really good for bluegrass, but you don't want to cough up $620, then I don't know, the Lure might be a good option for sure. I don't know, you guys might think differently than me, but I was kind of surprised that this one does cost twice as much as the Lure. I think like you're not really paying for necessarily a $300 more in improvements, if that makes sense. But that's the way it always goes with instruments. Like the more you pay, you're not really paying necessarily for that much of an improvement. Like the comparison between like a $100 mandolin and a $10,000 mandolin, you're not paying $9,900 worth of improvements. The improvements you get are very minimal, but you're paying more for them just because it's more boutique and more specialized for sure. But yeah, interesting stuff here. Well, I got to check on the poll here. What do you guys think about this Washburn versus Recording King? 39% said yes, and 61% said no, that they thought the Washburn was not better than the Recording King. That is interesting. I thought that was a very noticeable difference between those two mandolins, like the Washburn being more expensive, but the Recording King maybe sounding and playing a little bit better. I definitely agree for sure. I got to end this poll here, and we got to start a new poll for all 7 mandolins. You guys, I'm very curious to see what you all think. We have 135 people here, and let's start this poll. So we got first the Van Gogh, and then next we got the Ibanez, and then third was the Recording King. Fourth was the Washburn. Oops. I don't know if I can't do more than 4. Oh no. What do we got to do here? Well, that's tricky, isn't it? I wish I could add more. That's so tough. So let's say I'll group the Van Gogh and the Ibanez together. Well, that doesn't really do it either. What do you guys think we should do? Maybe I'll since we all kind of agree, maybe the last 3 were the best sounding, maybe we'll do a comparison between those. So we have the Lure, we have the Kentucky, and then the Eastman. Which one is best overall? All right, and we'll start this poll here. Let me know what you think. We had 77 votes in that last poll. That's great. I expect all 131 of you all to vote on this poll here. Let me know what you think. Looks like Eastman might be in the lead here. Nice, nice. Oh, Laura's not getting any votes. Oh, poor guy. Price point head-to-head bracket. Yeah, we should do that as well, because the Recording King was very nice. I don't know. Some of you guys like the Recording King better than any of those. Let me know. Very interesting stuff. This has been like quite the experiment. I got these in the mail like over a month ago. I think it was like mid-August. And I've been like kind of slowly taking my time, getting to know these, getting to set them up. And the review video that's coming out hopefully tomorrow is, I think, my most in-depth video I've ever done. Like, felt like I was making a cinematic movie, which I don't know if there's any demand for a cinematic movie made about beginner mandolins, but you know, we got to raise the bar of mandolin content so that, you know, more people play, and that, you know, we I don't know, we will survive as an instrument and as a community. But yeah, it was very fun and a lot of work, but also very rewarding too. And I just bought these all with my own money. I should have said that at first, but there's no like sponsors. It's all just my opinion as well that's in the video, and I'm sure everyone's gonna think differently than me too, which is, I think, gonna be fun. Because I don't know, like, instruments, you know, beyond just like the visible quality of an instrument, it is preference. Like you were saying, it's like beyond a certain price point, they start to sound different and unique, and you know, some people are gonna be drawn to certain instruments over others. But let's see, we have 50 votes so far. 62% like the Eastman better than the other ones. Whoa, nice. Let's see, what are folks saying? Let's see. I'll probably have to play them again. Yeah, that's a good question. If I don't know if you can change your vote. Maybe you can vote again, but let me play them all again and see what you guys think. I'll grab them all just for a comparison. Honestly, it's not even fair to like just judge by sight and sound alone. You really got to feel these to understand them. So here is the lore again. Let me see if I can what could I play? I'll try to play the same tune as similarly as possible. Like, here's the Kentucky. And then let me grab the Eastman here. Play the lower again just so you can hear against the Eastman. Sorry, a little bit of tuning issues there. All right, should I start the poll again now that we've heard them? That almost sounded muted in comparison. I know what you mean. Yeah, the lower definitely does sound quieter. So much more clarity on the Eastman. I think I'd agree for sure. Well, yeah, let me start the poll one more time. Just because polls are fun. Here we go. So we have the lore, we have Kentucky, and then the Eastman again. All right, starting poll. Let me try a couple other comparisons while you guys are voting. So let's try like a chop. Here's the Eastman. Oops. That one has a nasty good chop on it. That's for sure. Here is the Kentucky. Yeah, I think the Kentucky and the Eastman are kind of comparable in the chop for sure. What about how about like maybe a sweet little melody? Like what about like Kentucky. Here is the lore. Oh, let me try that again. And then here is the Eastman. And then since folks are talking a lot about the Recording King, let me grab that one again. Add it to the mix here. Has a very different sound than the other three for sure, but it definitely has a depth and kind of a, I don't know, like a really nice tone for sure. Interesting. All right, what do we have here for the voting? All right, a little bit different, but the Laura's got 19%, Kentucky at 28, Eastman at 54 out of 54 votes. Wow, nice. Cool. Well, I think my views are similar, but maybe not quite the same. And maybe just for fun, I'll let you guys watch the review video when it comes out. At the end of the video, after going over all the specs and doing some very detailed tone and playability comparisons back to back so that you can really hear them lined up. At the end of the video, I kind of give my list from worst to best, give them all kind of ratings out of 10 on the beginner mandolin scale. So you can wait to see what happens for sure. But let me see what you guys are saying. Rome is saying the Kentucky seems a lot warmer, but I prefer how clear the Eastman sounds. JJ Sneeze says, I'm a fan of the lore because I'm kind of terrible and terrified people will hear me play. That's one consideration. No, yeah. I know what you mean, though. It's like, it's nice not to feel like you're imposing on people with your sound. Thomas says the lore sounds a bit fuller. Yeah, Jessica's saying most would agree that Eastman sounds best, but is it twice as best? That's a great question. I don't know. And let's see. Matthew says, still going with the Kentucky overall, but the Eastman tone is warmer. Yeah, the Eastman tone is crisp, JJ says. Valendar is saying the Recording King is nice for the more entry-level instruments, but compared to the higher-end ones, sounds a little dampened to me. Maybe the difference between solid and laminate. Yeah, well, actually, this one has a solid top as well, so it's not that, but I know what you mean. It does sound like a little bit different, and I think it's probably because of the wider top and the X bracing underneath compared to like the tone bars that I'm pretty sure these other ones have. So it's gonna have a different quality of tone for sure. Definitely doesn't have like kind of as much narrowed focus like we were talking about for sure. But yeah, really impressed with the RK and the lore, Jessica says. Uncle Bobby asks, which one feels nice on the hands? Great question, yeah. So for the left hand, I'd say that the Recording King and the Eastman win, for sure. Like, that's pretty amazing that $200 mandolin has, like, one of the nicer necks on it. Although it's a little bit shallow. If some people don't like a really thin neck, that might be a factor. This one has, I guess, like a D profile, you would say, compared to the Eastman, which has the V profile, so it's a little bit deeper, but still feels like very thin on the fretboard side. Also, I do like the radius. It does, I think, make a difference for me at least. But I would say that this one doesn't feel the nicest on the right hand. Like the strings feel a bit tight, and it does have like kind of a little bit of a jangly sound, I think. And I don't think it's the setup. I think it's just like the quality of the instrument, like, or not the quality necessarily, but just like the way it's made, the way it's intended to sound. Whereas like the Kentucky doesn't feel as nice on the left hand because it's got more of kind of a C-shaped neck. It's got a little bit of a point on the back, but it's a bit thicker and kind of, I don't know, a little bit more bulky on the left hand. But I don't know, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference at the end of the day. What I love about this one though is that it has much more response with the right hand. It feels like you can really. The strings feel a lot softer, even though it's like the same set of strings, the same action, and yeah, I don't know what exactly makes that feel so much easier to play with the right hand. It feels like I can actually maybe get a little bit more volume with this one. So I don't know. As far as feel, my preference would probably be the Kentucky, just because it's like, it feels really easy to play for some reason. But the Eastman definitely feels the nicest on the left hand, and I'd say even the Recording King feels a little bit nicer on the neck than the Kentucky does. But great question. What else we got? Oh, David says, I started with the Kentucky, has a warm place in my heart. That's very nice. Eastman's our hand voice, Leanna is saying. Yeah, Tim is asking which one is the most ready to play out of the box. That definitely goes to the Kentucky. This one, I just had to tighten the strings pretty much, and then the bridge was already in the right place. I moved it very slightly just because I wanted it to be as in tune as possible. But I adjusted the action a little bit too, but it was already in a pretty good spot, and just strung up. I had D'Addario strings out of the box ready to go, and didn't have to do any of those crazy things like adjusting the truss rod or sanding the bridge down or anything like that. The Eastman was also pretty easy, but the bridge was definitely in the wrong place, and it actually was kind of glued to the top, which I thought was really kind of odd. For some reason, like the bottom, I don't know if it had been glued or if like maybe you'd been sitting in a hot warehouse for a while and some finish had kind of like adhered to the bottom of the bridge. So when I took the strings off, I actually kind of had to, I was a little bit concerned, but I had to like yank the bridge off the top even with no tension on it. I was worried that it might kind of damage the top, but thankfully it didn't. So that would take a little bit more finagling, but still it was very easy to set up. Otherwise, the probably the most easy to set up was the Lore, I think. Yeah, all the other ones, like the cheaper ones, the cheaper you go, required more setup. The Van Gogh was the worst. The Ibanez, the second worst. The Recording King did require like a bridge resanding. So for $200, you still had to pay probably another $100 or $200 on a good luthier setup. And then otherwise, like the more expensive ones definitely seemed like they were easier to set up. The Washburn was pretty easy, but it's funny, the bridge came packaged separately in the box. All the other ones had at least loose string tension with the bridge pretty much in the right place or around the right place. Some of them had like paper or foam underneath the bridge to avoid damaging the top in shipment, which I understand. This one didn't though, and it came with more string tension on the top than the rest did, so that the bridge was kind of nicely in the right spot. But yeah, so I had to start from scratch an intonation with the Washburn, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's definitely a factor to think about. We are the winners with multiple good choices. I know. I think you're right, Joe. I think there's a lot of awesome options now, and I was so growing up, there's so little options. I mean, you couldn't order a mandolin online really, and the local music shop had maybe one mandolin on the wall, I think it was. And my dad, when I was maybe 13 years old, he went to the store and bought that mandolin because it was like the only one. It's this Alvarez A model, which I think was $300. So it's like, even back then with inflation, there's cheaper options now that I think are better quality than what was available back then, which is so exciting. And you can just order it online, no matter where you are. Pretty much, most of these are widely available out there, and pretty cool to think that you can start on the mandolin with just a click of the button. So many good choices. Dan's asking about variance in body thickness. Yeah, so out of the top three, I think this one has the thinnest top. And then next would be the Eastman, next would be the Lore. The Lore has the thickest top. And then some of the cheaper ones have thinner ones, like the Recording King, the Washburn both had pretty thin tops. And then, of course, like the plywood tops are pretty thin. That's kind of one of the reasons why they make the plywood, so they don't have to worry about the tops breaking or cracking under the pressure. Make them thinner and have a little bit more strength and durability with the plywood instead of the solid wood. Yeah, these three are thicker than the rest, but I'd say out of the top three, this Kentucky is the thinnest top. Great question. What else we got? Someone got a Weens recently. That's awesome. Patty Pump won. That's awesome, man. Congratulations. Yeah, Lucky Dog saying, play as many as you can. There are gems and clunkers in every model. I think you're right, too. That's another factor, is that since these are all, kind of mass-produced overseas, some can be better than others, even though they're made to the same specs and, with the same wood, just different things can come out in different mandolins. So if you can play them in person before you buy them, even better. But if you can't, then, I'd say, like, one of those top three are going to be great. Let's see. What else we got here? Dr. McSwifty is saying, do you have any thoughts on super cheap mandos like a Savannah? Got mine from Guitar Center because it was the only one they had. And other than the tuners, it's pretty darn good. Nice. Okay. I've not played a Savannah, no, but kind of the cheapest one we had here was the Van Gogh mandolin, which is, I think, one of the cheapest and best rated, most popular mandolins on Amazon, which is kind of crazy. I'd never heard of the brand before, but it was plywood top, pretty cheap, $120. And it wasn't my favorite just because there was some pretty serious intonation issues that made it not enjoyable to play. It's not like it didn't sound terrible, or it's not like it didn't sound unplayable, if that makes sense. But it definitely was not as enjoyable to play, even as the Ibanez, which was like $40, $50 more. So that would be, my opinion. It's different from one to the next. I think the Rogues might be even a bit better option from what I hear. They're made by the same company that makes these Kentucky mandolins. So you might have some better luck with some different models. But I think the carved wood definitely does sound better. And if you want an instrument that'll last you for a long time and, make you excited to learn the mandolin specifically as an instrument and get into the tradition and the different genres that you can play on this thing, then I'd definitely recommend solid wood. But if you're just a guitar player and you want like an auxiliary instrument just to knock around on, then that's totally fine. Buy a cheap one and see what you like. If you do like it, you can go on and get one of these ones for not a whole lot more. If you're only spending like $50-$80 on a mandolin, then you can easily buy something else later on if you want to. But yeah, if you're really serious about the mandolin, if you want to make this a focus in your life, then one of these solid wood ones is going to be better for sure. Yeah. Let's see, what else we got? Oh wow, Rome, Ohio is 40 minutes away from the mandolin store. That's so great. Yeah. That's an awesome spot. Or Elderly too, Jim's saying. Yeah, both of those spots. If you can go, they have a lot of these mandolins available in person where you can try them out back to back. But I don't know of a place that has like all these mandolins in one spot. And I thought, being a mandolin content creator, so to speak, this would be a fun way to get to display all the differences and get to show the comparison from one to the next. So I'm glad folks are enjoying it. Thank you so much for tuning in here. This has been an awesome stream. Let's see. Patty Pump one saying, started with a super cheap mandolin called a Smoky Mountain. I never heard of those. That's cool. Yeah. A model plywood jobber. Got the Jamie Weens. Nice. Got the setup from Jamie. That's so good. Very cool. Well, yeah. I'll go ahead and end this poll. Thank you so much for voting, for checking out all these mandolins. Shout out to any of those folks out there who have these mandolins, or currently or in the past, or learned to play on one of these things. I think that's so exciting. And the comparison too, it's not just like to be a competition, but just to show what's out there. What are the options? What are the differences? And as you get into the higher and higher price tiers too, like the options become even more overwhelming. So I don't know if we have quite the production budget to do an intermediate mandolin comparison, but as you get beyond this, unfortunately the price goes up pretty dramatically. It's about like, I'd say like the next price tier is around $2,000. So obviously, Eastman does make some higher, price tier mandolins that maybe use some more select woods. The reason why I did the A model comparison here was that, these are the cheapest, most common mandolins that you can find online. If you're a beginner looking for, a cheap, affordable mandolin to start on, I definitely recommend like an A5. Like this is probably going to be your most versatile, common available option. But then, you can buy like F models from a lot of these same companies like Kentucky, Eastman, I don't know if Recording King makes one, but the Lore makes one as well. So that's, a few $100s more, maybe like you're paying $500 to $800. Eastman's might be more like $1,200 to $1,500. But I don't know, like for some of these beginner companies, if you're getting like a whole lot more for your money besides just the fancy scroll and the points and the headstock, you might get like some better wood, you might get like some radius fretboards again and stuff like that, but you're still getting kind of like the same mandolin built by the same people in the same place. And I think like you're probably gonna get a much better mandolin for your money if you save up and go to the next price tier, like the $2,000 to $3,000 range, which would be Northfield. Used to be Collings, but those are way more expensive now. And maybe some more private builders who are just getting started offering mandolins for less than some of the more boutique builders. And then the advanced range, it's kind of like a little sickening to think about, but you're probably going for $8,000 to $30,000, and that's where like it really expands. I think some of the artist models from Northfield are up there as well. Like those are probably like $7,000 to $8,000, I believe. Some of the Collings mandolins are up there as well, but I think the advanced level, you're probably going to folks like Gibson, is making $12,000 mandolins. I don't know if they're my favorite option in that price range, but that's where my Pitty's mandolin is, and that's where like Gilchrist mandolins or Nugget or Red Diamond, all these like kind of mythical mandolin luthiers that we've all heard about from the Mandolin Cafe and going to places like Carter Vintage Instruments and just kind of trembling as you pick up one of these really expensive mandolins. And then the next tier, very few people find themselves in, is the collector's tier, where you're paying maybe about $80,000 to $180,000 for a mandolin, like a Lloyd Loar or a Gibson Fern or something like that, which not many people find themselves in. And I don't know if you're really, again, paying for a $180,000 mandolin, you're paying for like the collectability, and you're paying for the history beyond the actual physical appointments. PW saying best F5 beginner necks. That's a great question. I'd be interested to see like if there's much of a comparison between like the A5 and the F5. That's a really good question. You're getting me thinking. That's bad for my wallet. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I think we should do something like that. Best F5 beginner. Is the F5 different than the A5 in this price tier? Also, like what is the comparison between a $100 mandolin like the Van Gogh, maybe a $500 mandolin like this Kentucky, and maybe like a really expensive mandolin like a $10,000 mandolin or something like that. So those ideas are in the pipeline for future videos, for sure, future streams. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe here on the channel so you don't miss out on any of that stuff. We're going to be doing some other setup related content here, like I mentioned too, so you can check that out as that comes out in the future. And if you want transcriptions to some of those tunes I was playing, some better versions, more consistent versions of those tunes, you can find all those over on Patreon too. There's a link in the description below, as well as links to all these mandolins if you want to check them out, if you're interested in buying one of these or getting a nice Christmas present for a family member or a friend, and get them to pick with us, get them in the community here. That would be a really awesome idea. So check out all that stuff in the links below. And next week, if anyone's going to be at IBMA, I'm planning to be doing a live in-person Mandolin morning session at the expo hall, like just outside the expo hall in the convention center. Like we did that last year. So much fun getting to hang out with people in person, getting to pick some tunes in person, and get to hear one another instead of doing virtual tunes. So very fun, and I'm glad folks seem to enjoy this one. Like we had like 150 folks at one point. That's so cool. It's like more than twice what we usually have here on the stream. So thank you for tuning in. We'll have to do more kind of specific, kind of experimental live streams like this in the future, and be sure to stick around for that soon. But hey, in the meantime, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Keep up the picking, keep up the good work, and I'll see you guys soon.